Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at another devlog for the next major update, and this one is for the KV-1. This is for the 1942 version of the KV-1, which is coming to the Swedish tech tree at rank 3. Unfortunately, it's coming in as a premium though, a GE premium specifically, so Sweden will still not have a standard tech tree heavy tank, which is incredibly annoying. But this is a KV which is slightly different to the other variants of the KV-1. It is technically the last mass-produced normal variant of it, if you want to put it like that. But I feel like there was a ton of variants after it, which we already have in game, just not as many were produced. The 1942 was the most produced out of all of the KVs and features the ZIS-5, which you know from the standard KV, and also more armor, which will definitely make it annoying to fight. Let's get into the history of this vehicle. The KV-1 model 1942 was the final production variant of the early KV-1 models. As their development continued, it was clear that armor improvements had to be made in order to keep up with the more powerful German cannons, notably the Pak-40. This culminated in the model 1942, which received a rounded cast turret at 100mm thick, while still inheriting the extra armor plate supplied to the KV-1 ZIS-5, making it effectively the most well-defended KV-1. Finland captured 2 KV-1 tanks during the war, and this particular model is said to have been recovered by the Finnish near the Lower Severe Hydroelectric Station in early 1942. It was captured in good condition and would serve with several Finnish tank companies throughout the Second World War. Interestingly, the Finnish KV tanks are noted to have been active up to 1954, though it's likely they only saw sporadic use. Today, both KV-1s can be resting at the Parola Tank Museum in Finland. So it is really nice to see the KV-1 1942. It just kind of sucks that it's a premium. That's pretty much it. The fact that the Swedish do not have a standard tech tree heavy tank, just like how the Japanese don't have one, and I believe also the Italians don't have one too. And you have dailies, you have specials that are based around heavy tanks, and this one would have been a perfect opportunity to put in the tech tree, so therefore Swedish and also people who enjoy Finnish vehicles could get those dailies and specials done. But no, instead you're going to have to play the standard nations, you know, America, Germany, USSR, and of course Britain with their heavy tanks, instead of playing stuff like the Swedish for it. So what's the difference between the standard KV-1s that we know and this 1942 one? The biggest thing is the armor, as simple as that. You know how the KV-1E and KV-1B have more kind of beefy armor, they have some spaced armor around the turret. Well, with this one, there isn't any real spaced armor, they just increased the amount of it. So basically the turret is rounded, it has 100mm on the side of it, and 82 to 90mm on the front of it. So actually it has more armor on the side of the turret than it does on the front. But the front is pretty angled because it is kind of the standard breech for the KV. This vehicle also uses the ZIS-5 cannon, which, if you don't know, it's on the KV-1 ZIS-5. This one is already in the tech tree for the Soviets, and guess what? It got up-tiered recently because of the fact it's been so good. The 76mm ZIS-5 doesn't have a ton of penetration, but when you're facing a lot of Panzer IVs, Panzer IIIs, Shermans, as long as you know where to pen them, you'll destroy. It's also one of those vehicles that heavily relies on APHE doing a ridiculous amount of damage. And after the APHE vote went through, this vehicle is going to be even stronger because of the fact that they're buffing APHE, even though it's already very good. So with this ZIS-5 cannon, you may have to learn where weak spots are, and the way to do that is obviously with the protection analysis, and you can work out where to shoot all the guys that you're going to turn into. If this thing goes at the same BR as the KV-1 ZIS-5, then there will be matchups where you just won't really be able to do anything if you get like a full up tier with it. But that's pretty much standard for most heavy tanks without very large guns. The Churchill just screaming in the background. So yeah, you're going to have to be a bit careful with that. But if you pen with this round, it has a lot of HE. You are going to nuke whatever target you see, and that's going to make a large difference. It also has a pintle-mounted machine gun on it, which is actually quite a nice little thing. One of the problems with a lot of the early Soviet machinery is they don't have any pintle-mounted machine guns, so defending yourself against planes can be a little bit annoying. With stuff like the KV-1 though, usually you can just, tank the bombs, because it only blows off tracks and maybe destroys the gun, and with this one having even more armor than the standard KV-1, it will be able to tank quite a lot. Now, the weak spots of the KV-1 are pretty important though. So the actual gun shield itself, or the gun mantlet, there is a weak spot there, but it's kind of hard to hit, especially because of how mobile this machine is. You're looking at a machine that goes 35 or 34 kilometers an hour, which is very quick for a heavy tank. And also that lower glacis is a big weak spot for the vehicle too. Usually that's where you pen these things from the front, but also it does seem there's a little bit of extra armor on that lower glacis, so that could probably cause a bit of an issue for setting up these things. So that could be a problem, but I feel like at its BR, it's going to be fine to kind of face. The main thing that's nice about this KV is finally we have another nation which has access to this thing. The KV-1s are really powerful and have been for the longest time. And for me, looking at the KV-1's IS-5, which is the most comparable to this one, it finally got more rebalanced more recently. But there are other ones, such as the KV-1B and the KV-1E, which are not balanced. So I'm hoping that this vehicle coming as a premium for Sweden means that the KV-1B or E, I believe it should be the B, for the Finnish comes in as a standard tech tree vehicle. So those vehicles can finally go up in BR, so they stop being the bullies that people use in order to destroy the low tiers against new players. And maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. It's probably not going to happen, let's be honest. But it is something, at least, that I hope for in the future. So what you're getting out of this thing is pretty good. You're getting a vehicle which will be mobile for a heavy, which will be able to do dailies, which will be able to do specials, and will be low enough BR for you to have a great time against a lot of vehicles that won't know how to deal with you. It just sucks that it's a premium. I don't know why they're continuing this trend of just not giving standard tech tree types of vehicles to nations. It sucks. It's no fun, and it is just annoying because it limits you from certain parts of the game if you want to play these nations. And it's the same with stuff like strike aircraft. It's the same with stuff like certain other types of planes and ground vehicles and even naval, since of course Sweden doesn't even have naval forces yet. So yeah, I hope that they fix it. I hope that alongside this KV, they get one in the standard tech tree too, so we can see a bit of readdress to that. Don't think it'll happen though, at least not in this update, hopefully in the future. As always though, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.